People are always telling me I need to pull my head out of my boat hole. In this episode, I actually pull my head out of my boat hole. I'm Brian. Join the adventures as I share what I learn restoring a hurricane-damaged catamaran with the dream to sail the world.
Next big project is this guy here. Gotta get all the layers of glass on this. It's gonna be a lot of work. Actually, it shouldn't be too bad. But I want to get that done before the hot rainy season starts, because the hot rainy season I want to work inside with air conditioner. All right, first order of business today is get this guy ready to put the glass on. Gotta get this guy patched up because I can't put the layer onto nothing.
This area of the boat is solid glass, so I don't have any foam to build the backer. So what I use just a piece of fiberglass, and I put it back there as a backer, and then I'll remove it from the inside once I get this piece of glass laminated on there.
All right, after a good part of the day sanding, I got this all sanded back. Took hours and hours to sand that because this is pretty thick down here. But now it's time to put some glass on. Got it cut here, set up a little station here.
I know I said I was going to try to release a video every week, but it's just been really tough. I've been super busy, even though I'm not working, although it does look like I have a new job lined up for the end of the month. I was hoping to prolong my time off a little bit farther with some supplemental income from YouTube, but I really don't make that much off of YouTube. I think I'm going to do an upcoming episode of kind of behind the scenes and show how much money I actually make on YouTube. I would need about a 5 to 10 times growth in order to do YouTube full time.
Got the last piece of glass on the side here. I'll sand it down maybe tomorrow. Start fairing it. I'm so tired. I gotta just put my tools in my Milwaukee pack out and head home. I'm gonna start sanding it down. But what I do is I'm just sanding on this one because it's stitched. If you do a good job with the stitching and you get the air out and get a good glass to resin ratio, all you see is stitching on the top. And so you just sand off the stitching. And you want to be careful if you're sanding woven cloth, because when you sand woven cloth, because the layers interweave, you basically lose the strength. But because this has unidirectional on the top, as long as you don't sand through the unidirectional, you don't lose strength in both directions. Feather this, get this all kind of feathered up nice. Then I'll probably put another layer on top that's my fairing layer. And then start fairing this. It's just too hot today to wear my Tyvek suit, so back to the baby powder. Stuff works.
Whenever I'm sanding and feathering, I pay careful attention to the layers so that I make sure I don't grind through any strength layers.
I got this feathered here. I think right along the edges, and this is my theory, and here again, this is why Brian's sailing, the initials are BS. But I think, according to crack theory, which has to do with engineering and crack propagation, I think that's what it's called. Anyways, when you get a crack, and that's one of your worst problems here when you start delaminating right here. If any of these edges will pick up and start delaminating, then it'll propagate across and you'll get a crack starting from a little crack. And so what I like to do is because this is thicker, right, even though I feather it down, I'll put a thin layer, and I'll go with 1200 bias. That's what I like to use. And then so I'll put a full layer of that on top of this, and this just kind of binds everything together. And because it's in a separate layer, if it cracks, it'll crack, and hopefully leave that or prevent this main layer from ever starting to delaminate. After I faired the first coat, this is kind of what it looks like. Ready for to put the second coat on. I don't know how many you take, maybe 4, 5, 10, 500. No, I'm just kidding. Probably 3, 4. At least good enough to get the primer on. This section here is going to be in the sun for a couple more hours, but I want to get those last 2 pieces of glass on that upper section. Or I mean the main 2 pieces of glass. I'll have some additional little pieces to put in. But this here is fair, just needs some, or mostly fair, just needs maybe 1 more, 2 more layers of fairing, and then we'll be ready to prime this whole side. But I'm going to wait a couple hours because the sun's in the way, so I'm going to work in the shade. I've been kind of lazy that way. So this guy here is my last below the waterline repair. Well, I got some hairline cracks in this keel I gotta fix, but those won't leak water into the boat. But this guy here, this is my main one. So I got to pull this patch off and put a new patch. This should be a pretty easy repair because it's just an easy shape. And I don't have to do anything crazy like I did on the other stuff. So let me get working on grinding this guy off.
It took me a lot of work to get that stupid patch off. It was really thick fiberglass, and they glued it on and they screwed it on. It was quite a pain, but I guess I was thankful for it when I crossed the Gulf Stream. Now, the next thing I'm starting on here is the next layer of fiberglass, and I came up with a pretty interesting system to do this. What I do is I clamp it using a piece of steel stud with like a packing bubble wrap on top. And so then I'll clamp that up and that holds it in place. Then starting at one end, I'll wet it out slowly, both the hole underneath as well as the cloth, and just slowly work my way down across to get this thing in. And this is a big piece of fiberglass, so I was a little bit worried if it'll work, but I figure, what the heck, I'll give it a try. And now for today's featured comment from Tim Baker. He says, "Can't watch anymore. This is brutal. I give you an A for effort. Such BS." Well, thank you, I think. I mean, thank you for the people that can keep watching all my BS. Anyways, well, it's Brian Sailing. What do you expect? So thank you, though, for all the people that are leaving good comments. I really appreciate it, and I read them all. And it also helps the YouTube algorithm to recommend me more. So appreciate it.
It's getting dark, but that turned out better than I thought. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. I thought I was going to fail because that's the biggest piece I've done so far, and I'm all by myself. And it's not flat. It's on its side, which is really hard to get to stay up there. And it has some roof, but I think I got a system now. Oh, I'm tired. All right, time to go home. I'll clean up tomorrow. It's the next day, ready for the next piece of glass. So I sanded it down just a little bit to rough it up so that we'll get a good adhesion. I got it propped up in place. It's really tempting to just do like the whole bottom all the way across and then try to do it at once and then the top, but that's how I got in trouble last time when I did the deck, trying to do that. So I always got to remember, you got to start at the end and work this way. So one of the things I do when I'm working by myself, because it takes a long time to mix the epoxy and to measure it out, and you can't do it all at once because it'll get too hot, it'll kick off and you get trouble. So I mix up a bunch of cups. So these are the resins, these are the hardeners, they're all the same amount, and I just grab, every time I run out of epoxy, I just grab one, dump it in, stir it up real quick. The other thing that helps is running it in a tray like this. If you run it in a cup, it keeps it thicker, and the thicker it is, it causes a chain reaction and causes it to kick faster. So by putting it into the tray where it'll run thinner, it gives me a little bit more working time, and I need every second I can get. The only problem is I'm out of a big roller like this. I think the only thing that I have right now is this guy. So hopefully this works. It seems like I destroy a lot of these rollers too. I left epoxy in there. It's a goner. Maybe I'll be able to cut it out. But, oh well. I'm a little scared to start this, you know? Yesterday, I thought it was going to fail for sure, and it went really well. And so today I'm a little bit nervous. It's a little warmer today, but I left the epoxy in my house in the air conditioning overnight. And so the epoxy is a little bit cooler than it was yesterday. Yesterday, from the hot car, a lot of it was really hot, and sitting outside all day, it got really hot. So hopefully it's a little bit cooler, gives me a little more working time. And yeah, sometimes you just gotta take the leap and go for it. Wish me luck.
It's really difficult with that boat being so close to me, trying to work on it. And I did get permission to use it as a platform, but it would be a lot nicer to have scaffolding. And I tried my best to keep the epoxy off of it, but some of the epoxy just went up there, and I tried to clean it off at the end, and you'll see me with some acetone, but I guess I missed a few spots. And what really got me, and I felt really bad about it, is I think I'd stepped on some epoxy, and so then there were some sort of epoxy footprints. But I talked to the owners, and they were really cool about it, so I appreciate that. So thanks. They just came recently and put new motors on it, so they rebuilt the motors. I think they're from Ohio. Really cool, couple of guys. but I think it's going to be really important. And they're supposed to move probably in August or something like that, move the boat out. So I'm hoping to get a little more space so I get my scaffolding in there before I need to paint, because it's going to be a pain otherwise. When you put this on, there's just lots of squeegeeing, making sure you get all the air bubbles out and you get the epoxy transferred into all the places. And that's the key to making a good laminate, is just taking the time to make sure you get all the air bubbles out. And that's why I kind of do it in sections. So if you remember what this looked like before, when it was all smashed down, and then after I had taken it and cut out that whole section before I rebuilt the foam and put it together, I think now it's starting to look pretty good. It's really starting to feel like the boat is coming together. I still got some fairing, so you can see me cleaning up with the acetone. So 90% of the time that I work on the boat, I'm either, at least the fiberglass work, I'm either grinding or sanding the fiberglass. So that's most of the time. So I try not to put too many clips of that, because, you know, you can only watch so much time lapse. But this is where I told you that I finally am pulling my head out of my boat hole. Maybe that'll get me a few more subscribers.
Now, project today, or tonight, is trying to get this tank out. So I already emptied about, I don't know, 45 gallons or 50 gallons of diesel out of it. And so now I need to get it loose. I've got most of the connections off, and it's got screws here. And this is one of the genius things of this boat. If you've seen some of the other, channels where they've had to repair their fuel tank because it's sitting down in the bilge, all this, it's got clearance from the bilge. It's mounted here, which number one, stiffens the hull, but also keeps your tank out of the water, and especially with an aluminum tank, to get corroded. Like I think it's Gone with the Winds, they had to patch up their tank because it's sitting down in the bilge. So another genius design. Good job, Ted, on the Antares Catamaran. Alrighty, got the tank almost out. It's a big tank, but I think I think I can rotate it this way and get it out through this hole if I move the battery box. Actually, it's not the battery, this is the battery mount, but it's glassed in there, so I'm gonna have to cut that out. I think that's the only way I can figure out how to get this tank out. Yeah. Could maybe try rotate the other way, but I don't think it's going to clear that. Alright, battery tray gone. For all you friends of polyester for secondary bonds, this is why I don't like it. I just peeled it off with my crowbar. Right here, I just got it underneath, peeled it off, breaks the bonds, comes right off, and it'll be easy to laminate back in there. And it just holds the battery, so I'm sure it's strong enough. But, yeah, epoxy wouldn't have done that. I don't think vinyl ester would have either. All right. Enough complaining about polyester. All right, battery tray gone. For all you friends of polyester for secondary bonds, this is why I don't like it. I just peeled it off with my crowbar. Right here, I just got it underneath, peeled it off, breaks the bonds, comes right off, and it'll be easy to laminate back in there. And it just holds the battery, so I'm sure it's strong enough. But, yeah, epoxy wouldn't have done that. I don't think vinyl ester would have either. All right. Enough complaining about polyester. There we go. Nice open space where the tank used to be. That'll let me get to this area here. This is the big hole in the boat. Let's see that. Go right over. A big hole. And so I gotta cut that all out so I can get the patches in here. So, look, I even found a floorboard under there. And lots of other garbage. Time to get cleaning. Welcome to life in the bilge. So, got this sucker out. Kind of got this opened up. The tank is out. I pressure washed all this off here, got it cleaned out. And so now I just gotta grind this all back so that I can get a good mount. I gotta pull this seacock so that I can get closer. But other than that, time to start grinding this stuff.
Then back to more grinding and sanding. I also had to cut out one of the, at least a chunk of one of the stifter panels, so that when I patched this, I could get enough overlap that I felt safe. Well, that was a lot of work to take something that, remember, it looked like this, To now, it looks like this, and it's all ready to start the glass work.
When you don't have duct tape, masking tape will do. This guy here is a temporary form that I put on. It's made out of this fiberglass sheet. Just the right amount of flexibility, just the right amount of stiffness. I made that, I don't know, for some random reason I made that. I had that sitting around the house. I think I was just practicing laminating for maybe to see what I could do on the interior, probably before I had the boat. And it fit perfect here. I taped it, laid up the layers from the inside. We'll pull this off and lay up all the layers on the outside. Just finished laminating this hole with the first patch. It's got 4 layers on it. And then once I have that on, I'm going to put some really large patches that cover the whole entire section, and then it'll get patched from the outside once I pull that form off. Let's take this mold off. See how it turned out under here. I didn't prepare the mold very well. I didn't put very much release on it, so it's probably going to destroy it taking off. But let's find out how this turned out. Wow, check that out. Better than I imagined. But I gotta figure out how to get this peel ply off. It gets embedded in the epoxy. That might have been a mistake. Guess I can always sand it.
So once you have it all sanded and ready to go, it's time to put the glass on, pre-wet the material, and then put the first layer on. It's almost painful. Well, it is painful for me to go back and watch this, because here as I attempt the second layer of glass, this is before I figured out exactly what I should do. I tried, and then I put more on there and epoxy on there, and I tried again, and I tried again. I think I tried about 3 times, and I finally gave up because I could not get it to work.
After the last issue of trying to get that next layer to stick, and I want to get 2 more layers down, I decided I'll try vacuum bagging because, you know, I failed the last time. So I've got a little more professional. I've actually got a little thingy here to, I think they call it a frog, to hook to my vacuum pump. Vacuum pump is set up. This is all prepped. This should stay out of the way so I don't get epoxy on it. I'll put the stuff in and hope for the best. I've got all prepped on my laminating table here. Let's see what happens.
Vacuum bagging, well, it works really well on a flat table. I haven't had real good luck where the glass is hanging like this. It might be good for resin infusion. So my new method that I'm going to show in a future video works really well, though.
All right, just sanded this down. Got 3 layers. 3 layers? 3 layers on the outside, plus the stuff that I did on the inside, plus I'll have another whole set on the inside, but yeah, this will be plenty thick enough. And it's way bigger than the hole, right? It feathers out, multiple layers feathered out. It's good. All right, so I'm gonna put some fairing compound on this, and we'll get back to work.
I'm super excited to show you all the stuff I've got coming up, including CNC cutting my new bulkhead, and I finally figured out how to get overhead glass to work. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Also subscribe if you haven't yet. If you leave a comment, that helps the YouTube algorithm for people to discover me. Thanks to all the patrons on Patreon, and also thanks to Chris W, who PayPal'd me some money. Thank you. Oh, and if you haven't gone back and watched all the earlier episodes, you're missing out on some great stuff. I've got a playlist. Just watch the playlist and it'll show you all the episodes from the beginning of discovering the boat and sort of this adventure, how it got started. It's a great watch, and the early videos are really short, so it goes pretty quick. All right, thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.